Hello to all my wonderful dreamers out there, and welcome back to Crystal Clear Dreams. So, today I wanted to share the interpretation of a dream that I had last night, actually. And I'm really excited about this because I interpreted the dream and I told it to my daughter, who also has the gift of interpretation. My older sister, she also has the gift of interpretation, and she gave me a totally different interpretation of the dream than I gave myself. Since I was a child, I've had the gift of interpretation, and generally, after having a dream, I can wake up and know exactly what it means. But this particular time, I was way off, and I was only able to know that I was off after she shared her interpretation of the dream with me. So I would like to share the dream with you, and then I'm going to share her interpretation. And I'm going to go back and give you my interpretation, just to talk about how sometimes we're too close to really see. Her interpretation resonates much deeper with me because there's evidence in the dream that her interpretation is correct. So what was the dream about? I had this dream last night. It was a really short dream, but it was a powerful dream. And in this dream, I was standing in this hallway, and there were like students around. Now, if you know who I am, I have been teaching for 25 years. I am in the cosmetology industry. I've been a nail designer for 35 years and teaching nails professionally as a licensed instructor for 25 years. So in this dream, there were students, and I've also taught elementary school children. I'm a certified teacher in the state of Texas. But these students seem to be around the age that my students are right now at the cosmetology school where I work. So that's significant. So in the dream, I'm standing in this hallway. It seems to be some type of establishment, maybe a school. Sometimes our dreams, the details are not really clear, but I knew that it was some type of building or establishment because we were standing right in the foyer in the front where you would enter in. And a lot of times with a school or an office building, the front, it would be all glass, like from floor to ceiling. And that's the way this was. So I'm standing, and there's some students around, and there's just a little bit of chitter chatter. And I just happened to look over, and there was this gigantic, colossal wave of water coming. And the window to the left of me, from ceiling to floor, I was only about a good 2 feet away from it. I was really close to it. But I just happened to look over, and the second that I looked over, it was this gigantic wave. And the top of the wave was cresting over, and a second later, it had hit. Now, once the water hit, I looked around, and the water as it was cresting and about to smash down was this really deep, intense blue, similar to the background of my virtual aquarium. I don't have to clean this tank right here. So the water was this really intense, pretty blue color. It wasn't muddy, it wasn't dirty, it wasn't green, it wasn't. So as the water hit, I looked around, and the water had this really beautiful, pale, like sky blue color. And it almost had a milky texture to it, and there was like foam and stuff. And the water was coming to right about here, to where my chest was. And I just kind of looked around and said, oh, look how pretty it is. Like the color was so beautiful to me, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, oh, it's so beautiful. And that's where my dream ended. So now let's talk about what the dream means. I'm going to give you my daughter's interpretation of the dream first, which is spot on, based upon the many details of the dream. So the first thing to understand And this is the way she gave the interpretation. That wave, as I looked over, suddenly, it was very sudden. She said, the wave, the height of it is big. It's been accumulating. It is the result of a building, something that's been growing, something that has gained momentum. And she said the fact that I just kind of looked over, it was right there, was something that's coming into my life, and it's going to happen. It's going to take me by surprise, because it did in the dream. The wave, I looked over and there it was. And I was not afraid. What is key to understand about this interpretation, or any interpretation of any dream, is to note the minute details of the dream. Is it dark outside? Is it light outside? Are you afraid? Are you terrified? Are you not afraid? Are you just like, oh, incidental? I was not afraid. As I looked over at this wave, I was not afraid at all. If you were to see this gigantic wave coming at you, it would make sense that you're afraid, but I wasn't afraid. I was just taken by surprise. I was like, oh, look at this wave. So her interpretation was that this represents something that's really big, that has gained momentum and has been building and growing. So there's a force behind it. It's been building and growing, and that's why there's such a strong force behind it. She interpreted the after effect, the water coming in and then looking around and taking note, having the attitude about the water. Now this gigantic wave has crashed over, and you would think that I would be underwater and other people would be underwater. It came to right about here, about to my chest, and I was not distressed. I was not distressed in any way. I wasn't thinking in the dream, oh, I'm wet now and I'm in this water. I looked around and thought of how beautiful the color of the water was. And she interpreted that to relate to the purity of the water being pure, but the foam being an indication of something being cleared up. And she used some words that were really powerful. She said foam dissipates. And she said you do not see foam. And that's if you take your faucet in your kitchen and run water over your dishes or run it in a cup. If it's forceful enough, it makes these bubbles, this little foam, and then they dissipate, they go away. And she said that the foam is an indication of the force and how powerful this thing is. And she talked about how that whatever this is in my life, that I won't see it coming, but when it comes, it will be big, that I was caught off guard. But the after effect of that water being so beautiful and so foamy is a cleansing, and it represents change, There's a huge change coming. The color of the water is significant of this being something, although surprising, like caught me off guard, but something really beautiful. And I do believe that is my career because of the students in the dream. I am an instructor. I teach the manicuring, the nail technology program at a cosmetology school. And I have students that over the years, I've been doing this for almost 3 decades. And over the years, I've connected with young women and a few men that I've had an ongoing relationship with. So I'm convinced that the interpretation of the dream relates to my career. Now I want to give you my interpretation of the dream. And I want to talk about the minute details of my interpretation that don't really fit in with what was actually happening in the dream. Basically, the dream is the same. There's this giant wave. I look over real suddenly, and afterwards I'm standing there, but I took note that I'm not distressed. My first interpretation of the dream was that the wave, how big it was and how huge it was an indication of my disappointment. I've been in this industry many, many, many years. And I have articulated at times to others that are close to me, but mostly to myself in my own head and heart, of my tremendous disappointments after 35 years of being in this industry and giving so much to the industry and giving to so much to some of the people that were sent to me for me to train, etc., that I have this huge disappointment about where I'm at with it, what I've been given, the lack of recognition, these things. The after effect of the water looking around, I took to mean that my response to this is reaching out for something different, something that's more gratifying for me, something that I can really look to and feel a sense of importance, a sense of value, etc. I want to talk to you about when you have dreams, about why the interpretation that my daughter gave is more consistent with the actual dream, and therefore it really resonated with me, because sometimes when we are discouraged, and when I had this dream I was pretty disgruntled and just in a place of general disappointment and disgust, and okay, I've had enough, I'm done. Remember that in the dream I felt no stress. I felt no distress. It's almost like someone walking up to you with a gun drawn and you're not worried about it. You're not afraid. You're not screaming, running, and you're trying to run, but your feet are not going anywhere. In this dream, I see this colossal size wave that I have to literally look up to see, and I'm not terrified. I'm surprised, which is a different thing. So it's more consistent with my daughter's interpretation that this is something that has been building, but it's a good thing. The color of the water is this rich, intense blue type color that's more consistent with it being something that after all this time is coming my way. Just imagine if you were overtaken by this gigantic wave, you'd probably be underwater. The after effect of the wave crashing into us, I was standing still. It didn't move me. I was standing still. It didn't knock me off my feet. I wasn't upside down in the water. I'm standing in this water, and the water's catching me right about here. And I'm standing in the water, and instead of, I had not 1 ounce, not 1 iota of stress or fear or anything. I'm looking around at the water and thinking how beautiful it is. So it's more consistent with her interpretation of the dream that this is something that's coming to cleanse away, to take away the hurt, the disappointment, the disgust, the feeling of not being appreciated for what it is that I do, for what it is that I bring to the table. And I thought that this was really awesome because it just speaks to how all of us are given gifts. We have spiritual gifts, we have natural gifts where we can sing or dance or write or whatever the case may be, but we have spiritual gifts. And what's awesome about this experience is that even though our gifts often complete us, we can use them in our own lives to remain on the path that that has been chosen for us by the universe. But I love the fact that although my gift allows me to empower my own life through interpretation, I can wake up and say, this is what this means, and as a result, this is what I need to do. This instance, for that one rare time, it's happened before in my life, maybe a couple of times, but it's an awesome thing because I can see that that place of disappointment was overshadowing my ability to see clearly. And it took the gift of someone else, my daughter, to be able to come in. And now I can see the dream as one of encouragement, of one of something to create a positive anticipation, to look forward, to look up, and to say that the universe has seen and heard. So I want to encourage you. Sometimes it's good if you have spiritual gifts. Sometimes it's good to seek the gifts of others so that, iron sharpeneth iron. So sometimes it's good to seek the gifts of others. And this is a clear example of how, if you are a spiritual leader or an oracle or a messenger, prophet, prophetess, prophet, have these types of spiritual gifts, sometimes you might want to seek the counsel and the guidance of other gift bearers, because it allows us to grow and to see beyond our own selves. So I hope that you enjoyed this interpretation. Thank you so much for watching today. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, and I would be so happy and so honored if you subscribe to my channel. Share the video if it resonates with you and you perceive that it might resonate with friends or family. And please smash that notification bell so that when I upload, you will be the first to be notified of the latest video. Once again, I thank you for visiting with us here at Crystal Clear Dreams, and I wish you love, light, and manifestation.